Welcome to the wrong screen. Welcome to Evilive, the live media commentary show that answers the question, what would you do if you found a child in a crashed ship? Subscribe if you're new to the channel because today we are reviewing Brightburn. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, what would you do? Would you take care of this kid? Would you call social services? What would you
After seeing this movie, I
do?
shit myself. Yeah, I feel like this movie had to have hurt adoptions about 30% in the United States. This is
There's
not
like
exactly a great advertisement.
children
So
all over the world just like cursing this film. This is why I don't have a
this,
family.
this is why I'm stuck in an orphanage. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Oh,
geez, that was crazy. I mean, you could see from their perspective, why they thought this was like a gift from God, like you pray for something and then it lands from outer space,
right. There's some holes in this though. Like you don't tell anyone. You don't like call a local authority. There's this spaceship. Like
Yeah.
NSA doesn't show up on your doorstep. Can we see the downed spacecraft in your, we saw on satellite in your yard? Like
Yeah,
no
it's a
one,
good
there's like
point.
no questions or anything. Like I could never imagine. Like I get like the whole Superman trope is he fell to Earth and they just felt like they should take care of him. And it was, back in the time when, gosh darn it, that's just what you did and there was no questions asked. I feel like there'd be questions, especially
Yeah.
nowadays. But at some point, someone would be like, so where did this kid come from? And you're
You
like,
know, that's a great point. Like they could have set this movie in like the 1930s or 40s and it would have worked just as well. Like there's nothing in this movie that required modern technology
yeah.
in any way. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a timeless story similar to Superman, just in reverse. And that probably makes more sense because that's a good point I didn't think about. If the movie is set in 2018, 2019, there would be more questions asked when a meteor lands. And yeah, I didn't
100%.
really, yeah,
And not even like just legal authorities. What about your brother and sister? They don't ask where you got this baby. They're just like,
yeah,
oh, I adopted him. Oh, really? When? From where? There's follow up questions that naturally come along,
yeah.
especially when the aberrant behavior starts to manifest. And at no point are they just like, huh, this alien baby might be dangerous. They're
Yeah,
just like,
yeah,
no, this is totally cool. It's normal. And
yeah.
the lengths, and we're going to get into all this in a second, but the lengths that the mother goes to protect this kid, I love my children. I would not cover murder for them.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's kind of weird when we get to that. You could make a case that she didn't go far enough at the very end. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil. I don't want to jump
Yeah.
ahead to the end, but there's
So
two ways of
ultimately,
looking at it.
yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's this. First of all, it's supposed to be a horror film. Like that's
Yeah,
what this is. It's supposed to be set in difficult circumstances, feeding into the parents' desire to have children, and I can't empathize with the motherly desire, sort of the biological clicking clock of not being able to have kids, but desperately wanting to be a mom. It's outside of my wheelhouse of experience and understanding. I can I feel like I could sympathize. Which one is empathize is the one you can experience, right? And sympathize is the one you can imagine experiencing. I feel like I
I
could
think so.
sympathize with the need and the emotions, but there's a point in this where I'm like, I'm with the dad in this. As brutal as it is, like
Yeah,
that's where my head would be. And I could never imagine being put in a position that he was found himself in with the rifle leveled and then pulling the trigger and stuff. But my goodness, he murdered people. Like he's clearly not human. Like there's something wrong here.
yeah.
So,
And to your point, I mean, the father has a slightly different perspective than the mom because his best friend had just been killed,
right.
whereas the mom's best friend, the aunt, was okay. So the father was in like a little bit of a different spot emotionally at that moment where he
Yeah.
decided to do that. So I don't want to skip ahead too far, but that it's an interesting choice. Yeah.
I'm super stoked we're talking about this because I've, when my friend Cameron first turned me on to this film, I didn't even want to see it. And then when I watched it, I was blown away by it. And just because I'm a Superman fan, I felt like I liked it more because of that. Because it's set up literally like a Superman film, except it's like the aberrant version. And that's
Yeah.
literally why we're reviewing this between the original Superman films and then the next DCEU version of Superman films before we get to the newest version of the James Gunn film, because James Gunn produced this. His brother and his cousin wrote this, and it was directed by one of his old film buddies that they used to sort of tag team projects off of each other on. So this is very much a baby of James Gunn, and this, I think, could give us at least a minuscule understanding of where James Gunn, his love of DC and just storytelling, where we could see him go with the Superman franchise. Now, this may be a wild leap. We've seen him do stuff with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's been spectacularly successful. And we've seen him do stuff a little bit with the DC Universe, which was pretty well received. So I am kind of curious if there's anything in this that we can glean into what he's going to be doing with the new Superman film. So
It's a great point. I think if nothing else, you see that he's considering it from all angles, the
mm,
lore, and I think we see hints of that in the trailer for the new Superman movie, because you see the public reacting poorly to Superman in the trailer. I think someone throws something at him
yeah,
and they're like booing him and stuff like that. And after this movie, you can kind of see like the idea of an all-powerful alien that comes to Earth. Like there's a lot of risk in that. We shouldn't just like hold them up necessarily to be a savior and give them unlimited power. And so it's interesting. He's definitely looking at it from multiple angles. So I think
yeah.
this bodes well.
I do too, and I like that idea too. I felt like it was explored pretty well in Batman v Superman about Superman being like the bad guy, and I'm not sure how the payoff. When we get to that movie, we can talk about it. But ultimately, I like the idea of questioning motives. Like, this is an alien from another universe, and we're teased early on in this about the whys and wherefores and stuff, and we see it sort of manifest through the development of this kid. But ultimately, this is just a twisted Superman tale, and how far from reality could this have actually gone? I mean,
Yeah,
Superman has always been truth, justice, and the American way, very much propaganda esque. And there's the Superman, the Red Sun version of Superman, which is the Soviet version of Superman. So could this just be another reality of Superman? This is just the alien coming to Earth and then exhibiting their will on this less empowered and less technologically advanced civilization. There's a great line in the movie Contact, which is like, why would aliens come down to Earth and bother just like squishing a bunch of ants? Like, what's the benefit? And then the counter to that was, well, how bad would they feel if they just killed a bunch of ants? Like, it's unimportant.
right.
And so is that the sort of mentality that these alien intelligences are sending this Brightburn kid down to be raised and fed amongst the humans, like the wasp analogy in the beginning of the movie? And they don't see us as like beings. They see us as ants, like you're just a meaningless creature that just goes about their day without any thought about anything. is
Yeah.
is that what we are?
Well,
Like, what do you think?
yeah, that's what I loved about this movie is the fact that it's a horror movie to me was secondary. Like there was so many layers to this, and I love the aspect of the mentality of an alien. The fact is that the reality is that we've only discovered one intelligent life in the history of mankind, and that's ourselves. So we literally have no commonality to base an assumption on. In other words, an alien race could just as easily be ET or they could be the Predator. We have no idea
Right,
because we
right.
only have one example. There's not enough to base that a guess on. So I thought this was really interesting. Like, is morality a human construct? Is good and evil a human construct? Like maybe the aliens don't even view it that way. Like maybe they don't even think what they're doing is wrong. They don't have the concept of wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a completely human, creation.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that aspect from that. Yeah.
Oh man, that brings up so many wonderful ideas. When you extrapolate that out, our entire idea of polite society stems from our Victorian era sensibilities. and the reality of how we treat each other and what's right and wrong and good and bad. It's been an evolution of experience. It wasn't like it started this way once humans started walking on 2 feet. Like, we've gone through some really brutal eras of existence, and it was the Victorian era where we get our most common sensibilities from. And that's very recent. That's the last like 150 years and less than that. So like if the totality of human experience has been tens, 20s, 30s, thousands of years of human like societal evolution, I'm taking into account like the destruction and rising up and down of civilization through natural disasters in the course of histories and stuff, then we don't even have a real sensibility about, we're just making stuff up. The whole idea of care and concern for youth is a very new idea because people used to have kids so that they could work the farm. Like, and then kids would die of cold or in childbirth, and you'd get remarried because your wife would die in childbirth. And that was just the realities of life. Now we have this idea of life being sacred. That was not always the case. We were much more practical when we had to like eke out a living because of the brutality of existence. So
Right.
is our softer side coloring and skewing our vision of the human experience so much that we don't even recognize when another intelligent being comes down and acts differently than us? They're just acting the same way that we would be acting if we didn't have that Victorian era to teach us differently or to instruct us differently or codify our minds differently. Like, sans any type of religion that says, or any type of morals that say we should care for our young and each other versus we should, might makes right, as it were, and just like
Right.
step on whomever for whatever reason. Are we just the Brightburn guy? I mean, I feel like I've met a number of people in my life that are very much along that sensibility, and there's no moral difference. We now, have an entire culture based around this idea of like sociopaths and serial killers and stuff. But that's just, it's a natural occurrence of the human experience. It may be aberrant because it's uncommon, but it is a naturally occurring sensibility. So, is there a possibility that an entire species evolved that way? And then we just don't understand it because we interpret things differently?
Right.
I just find that stuff so fascinating.
Absolutely. So there are examples, obviously, with other mammals of them
Yeah.
caring for their youth, and we do see certain, dogs will take care of a cat, or they'll even go
Right.
cross species. So there are
Mm-hmm.
examples of morality in other animals. But then you take insects, for example, and there's no
Brutal.
example. And that's why, yeah, and that's why I thought it was very interesting in the school that he gave that example where he goes on and on about the way wasps were put into as an invasive species, and they dominated the bees and stuff like that. So I think that was giving a clue to the what type of aliens these were.
100%.
Otherwise, why would the director just put that in there? So I thought that was interesting. That tells you what it is. But what I loved about the movie was that even if that was what the species was designed to do, like the aliens send their spawn, their prodigy out into the galaxy to land on planets and take them over. That's their way of repopulating themselves. But even if that's the idea, the fact that he was raised by human parents that tried to teach him morality and teach him the opposite, and now his inner, he's trying to fight that,
Mm-hmm.
try to figure out who he is. Is he nature or is he nurture? I thought that was really, really emotional and deep, and it's that's
100%.
why, yeah, that's why I love this movie.
Yeah, the idea of nature versus nurture is a core to philosophy in college whenever you go through it, and it's something that is continuously argued and discussed by I think any rational minded individual, because you can make arguments both ways. I tend to fall down the line of tabula rasa, where we're kind of blank slates, and the region, society, family that we're raised in informs a lot about how we interpret the world. And I think that's why we have such different cultures around the world, because just the mentalities of where they were raised and by whom, and the societies and stuff, they imprint on you.
Do you
But
think
there,
like 70% nurture, 30% nature type of
gosh,
thing?
I don't know. I don't know because we have so many horrible people in the world that were raised and should have been just totally nice, normal people due to where they were raised and by whom, but they just still turn out horrible. I genuinely tend to like err on the side of just nature will have it all in the end.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, no matter how much we try to, sometimes you're just an asshole. So, like you've ever run into animals and you're like, oh, you're an adorable dog, and then it like bites you. You're just like, what the, I mean, some people are just shit asses, and there's nothing you can do about it. They're just shit asses. It's like baked in for some insane reason. They shouldn't be, but they have no perspective. They don't care to have perspective. Animals are the exact same way. Some animals are just shit asses, and they shouldn't be because they're raised by seemingly loving families, but then all of a sudden they just snap one day and like
Mm,
attack someone. Like I want to believe in the idea of nurture having power over that, but I think reality speaks differently.
mm,
So I like the idea of nature. I'm sorry, I like the idea of nurturing, but I think nature will have its out. What
interesting.
do you think?
Yeah. I like to believe that nurture is a little bit more of an influence. I recognize that it's probably close to 50-50, but I would probably err 60-40.
Hmm.
The problem I have with nurture being more of an influence is you could have, two brothers raised in the same household, the same parents, same everything, and one is a great guy and the other becomes a murderer. So
Right, right.
I think I'm a little bit of the same way. I do, prefer to think of the world as you could overcome, genetics if you're raised in a good environment. But there's just too many examples that hurt my theory. So you're probably right. It probably is more nature. Yeah, yeah,
It's rough, especially, we're both parents. That's the hardest part because admitting that means you might have zero say on who your kid ends up
yeah.
being. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's zero. I don't know. I don't know. I could go back and forth on it.
Yeah.
Let's give the log line of this film. What
Sure.
if a child from another world crash landed on Earth? But instead of becoming a hero to mankind, he proved to be something far more sinister. So, again, this is very much a Superman themed film, just gone the opposite way. The budget was 6 to 12 million. It brought in 33 million. That's a huge success by my standards, but apparently the studios didn't think so. There was supposed to be a sequel because I loved how this ended with the end credit scenes, but I'm kind of glad it's not a sequel. Like this is just a standalone. I like the teasing, but I don't need to see more.
Yeah. I would be curious, like, just to see where he goes next. But I think I mean, you pretty much know, like, once the parents are out of the way, that was the last vestige of him trying to be good. He had respect for his parents. He actually listened to his mom up until the very end, and
Yeah.
then once she's gone. So you're right. A sequel would be tough. The only thing I could say is that it might be a good horror movie. Like you could have like the girl that he was interested in because she's still alive
Mm-hmm.
and the aunt is still alive. So you could make them the victims and
Right.
trying to
Right.
find a way to take him out. Like it could work as a horror movie, but it wouldn't be deep and meaningful the way this one was because once the parents are gone, then the question has been answered.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. It
Yeah.
probably didn't need a sequel.
So it was originally released May 24, 2019. Music was by Tim Williams. I thought the score was nice. It didn't stand out to me, but it also felt appropriate and weaved in the tension and everything.
There were a couple of notes that were very reminiscent of the original Superman score,
Right.
which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was wearing red and blue a lot, I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
a cool tie-in.
Yeah, they very much wanted to lean into what they were referencing as source material for sure. It was directed by David Yarovesky? Did I say that right?
David, we'll just call him David. We're
Yeah, Big
close.
D.
We're first name on a first name basis. Big
We're
D.
bros. Written by Brian Gunn and Mark Gunn, again, brother and cousin to James Gunn, the producer. Elizabeth Banks. Elizabeth Banks is one of those actresses where she seems to always be in like B movies, or at least have roles in A movies that aren't like leading roles. but she's great. I think she's great in this.
I agree. And the chemistry of her and the husband, I know him
Yeah,
from The
yeah,
Office,
David Denman.
David Denman. They felt believable as a couple. It felt like
Mm-hmm.
they had been through some shit, together. Trying to have a kid. Like there just seemed to be a lot that was, jumping out off the page, just like kind of like a background that didn't need to be said. It was
Yeah,
unspoken. Very, very good. And the
he
kid
was
was
great. He was
amazing.
great.
Yeah, spooked the shit out of me as a parent.
So his name's Jackson A. Dunn. He played Brandon Breyer, or the Brightburn, the superhero of the film, super villain of the film. He did a wonderful job, but I agree with you that for me the parent connection was the most important because that set the stage on why they went along with this for so long. Because again, in the real world, I don't think any one of them would have gone this long and had with so many cues of what's going wrong, ignored them. Like there's no real world where that happens, I don't think.
It was exaggerated, but it also, the movie made it seem like this was a very recent occurrence. It seemed like it was almost like a puberty thing, an adolescent thing. You got the impression that
Right.
up until now he had been a normal, loving kid. So with that as the background, if you haven't seen signs up
Mm-hmm.
until recently, maybe you try to ignore them a little longer than you would otherwise,
Yeah.
because you've had 12 years saying one thing and only the last week or two that says otherwise.
Yeah, and that I mean, and you're not at the teenage phase yet, right?
Not yet, no, but it's
Like
coming.
it's in the
It's
mail.
check is in the mail. I'm worried about it.
It's coming for
And now I'm really
sure.
worried about it after this movie.
My experience wasn't this bad. I I have oh, I have a lot of embarrassment and shame about the quality of a father I felt like that I was, and I've had long conversations with my son and my wife about how I feel like I've dropped the ball in a lot of ways. And it's just something that I didn't really have the best father figure growing up, but he wasn't a bad one. And I was more wrapped up in me than I was like my son's experience. And it's just this huge vacuum of regret that I live with. Um, but I still feel like if my son would have been acting like this, I I wouldn't have been able to put a gun to him like this dad did. That's like next level shit. But
Yeah,
I would have called like the police. I would have called the government, knowing
yeah,
that it's an alien ship. This is not
yeah.
human. I would have called someone instead of trying to just like cap him myself.
Yeah. Well, first of all, can
Ugh.
I just say, like, the fact that you worry about how good a parent you are tells me, even if I didn't know you, that you are a good parent, because the bad parents don't think that they're bad parents and could care less, or just think that everything they do is right. So,
I hope that's true.
I bet you're a much better parent than you realize. But as far as yeah, just that's a nice, like, the more you know PSA. Don't shoot your kid in the back of the head. you know that was that was that was, I mean,
Yeah.
look, I felt that, all
The
kidding
more you know.
aside. Yeah, all kidding aside, I really felt that the parents needed to take some ownership.
Mm-hmm.
As bad as what he was doing, yes, turn him in, but don't give him up. Like the killing him would be the easy way out. That's like saying it's all his fault, we had nothing to do with it. And that bothered me a little bit, because the scene, is it okay to get to a little bit of the
Yeah,
end?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So the scene with the mom at the end, she's talking to him, and even after he's done horrible atrocities in the last half hour up until that point,
Right.
the fact that she's like hugging him, and she's saying there's still good in you, and he's crying and he's saying I'm trying to do good. The fact that she then tries to kill him, that actually bothered me. I just felt like, I know that what he did was completely unforgivable, but I feel like as a parent you have to take ownership of any little part that you had in it. And yes, turn him into the police, try to talk him down, try to keep him from killing other people. But the fact that you try to kill him is almost like saying it's all your fault. I just want to end it and be done with you. I don't know. There's like, I don't think you could just cut bait like that. It bothered me.
See, when the dad tried to do it, I felt that exactly. When the mom finally tried to do it at the end, she had witnessed him murdering cops, torture, and saw the end result of him like torturing and playing with the corpse of that waitress mom. Like he had done such horribly unforgivable things, and she knows at that point this is an exponential turn for him. He's not human. He's not the son that I raised. This he's turned into what he's meant to be, and this is the end of human existence. Like that's my interpretation of it. So I
Hmm.
felt like at that point she was just like, I have to lure him into being close to me so I can save the rest of my planet, like the rest of my species. It was no longer a mother son thing at that point, in my opinion. I felt like she had finally saw him for what he was at the waitress death specifically outside of his ship when she like grabbed the shard. Um, I felt at that point she was just like, it has to end. Like this is
Hmm.
not something that humankind can deal with, and this I am the only chance of stopping him in this moment, and I have to take that chance. And I felt like the pain of that reality. I thought the actress did a wonderful job of portraying it.
Yes.
I felt her struggle and well pain, and I believed it in the moment. And
Yeah.
that speaks to the power of the writing and the acting, I thought.
Yeah. That's interesting. I guess I didn't see it quite that way, but I could see your perspective. Like at that point, she's thinking about saving everyone else that she's ever loved. I wasn't thinking big picture like that, but I felt like again, this is a third person
Mm-hmm.
perspective. I think that she had a better chance of stopping him had she stayed in his life. Like she was the last vestige of him fighting his nature nurture,
Mm-hmm.
aspect. And once she was out of the picture, now it's literally no stopping him, and
Yeah.
he's just gonna ruin. And the aunt was probably next. I
Oh,
think she was.
100% she's
Yeah,
next. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
I feel so bad for that aunt.
yeah,
She's so screwed. And I think that's interesting because to your point, he did seem like he was trying to fight this
yes,
natural, almost instructed end. Like he was being told by his alien spacecraft what to do, and it was like coming from within him, but he didn't necessarily. It seems like he didn't really want to kill everyone and take the world, but he was compelled to. And once he started down that path, he started like sort of fantasizing about it and getting a little his little kid boner about it. Um,
yeah,
can I ask you about that question? The conversation. Now, now I've had the sex conversation with my son and my daughter at this point. And both times I take a very sort of medicinal approach to it. Like these are the body parts and this is what it means. And it is as much, if not more, an emotional experience than it is a physical experience. And it's something that you should cherish and wait until the right person to have sex. But masturbation, for in my opinion, has always just been like, no, do your thing. Like that in I understand if you're from a religious background that might be the case, might not be the case, but from my perspective, like if you can find a semblance of joy even at like minute increments in life, like take advantage. So
yeah,
with my son, I never overtly talked about like this is how you do it or it's okay or not okay. I just said, look, privacy is the most important thing. I give you privacy and I expect you to give me privacy. What we do in our own spaces is up to us as long as we're not hurting anyone else. And so if you feel the urge to masturbate, then I don't want to know about it and I don't want anyone else to know about it and I want you to experience that on your own. But
yeah,
like there's nothing wrong with it. It's totally normal. Just don't go like whipping it out in public because that's not okay. And
right,
I don't even know if that's the right way to do it or not, but that's sort of the approach I took. This approach with this dad, this stepson, I thought was as good as you could possibly do it, I guess. He's like, it's okay if you want to play with it and it feels good, then, play with it. And the kid's like, right now? And he's just like, no, 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 not right now.
Yeah, all the graphic murders aside, that was the most uncomfortable part of the movie for me. You could give me seven more jaws dropping and eyes getting gouged or glass. Just that conversation was like, God, I'm gonna be terrible at this.
So have
That
you
was
thought about
awful.
having that conversation?
I'm just gonna tell him, if you want to be with another person, just do what I did and wait till you're 34. No, I haven't thought about.
Great advice.
I, I'm exaggerating. It was 35. No, I haven't thought about it
Brag.
yet. But I am trying to like pick up more so like what not to do. And I think that the thing that I thought that he did well is he emphasized about finding the right person
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
love and stuff like that. Because I feel like relationships when you're young are like so intense,
Mm-hmm.
especially like your first love.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear horror stories about kids who break up with someone and they think they're never going to find anyone else, which is ridiculous because they're 15, 16, and then they hurt themselves. And I think that would be the emphasis when I, finally have to have that talk with my son is like, just treat people well, understand that if it doesn't work out, there will be, other people, or if it's
Yeah.
meant to be, you could end back with them later on. But I think that that's the part I'm more worried about than the physical aspect is the just treat people well and like understand that you'll get hurt and that that's okay. Because that worries me is how intense those young relationships are.
Yeah. And they
So,
really are. It's rough.
yeah.
Um, I almost, I mean, as horrible as it is to like live through when you're young or to witness your kids going through, I think it's a really good thing because not only does it mean that they understand what connection to another human is and how powerful that is and how wonderful that is that they mourn it so powerfully. Um, they understand the stakes, you know? Like
Mm,
if you treat someone bad, they will not be with you, whether that happened to you or you did it to someone else. That you should go outside of yourself and try to make other people happy, the people that you choose to make happy, because you genuinely want them in your life. And the only way that you can understand, it's sort of that idea of you don't know pleasure without a little bit of pain because you don't know how good it can be. You don't know love without hate. Like you need those to have those experiences to genuinely find that place in between where you're comfortable. Like the downside is that people just shut themselves off because they don't want to deal with it anymore.
yeah.
But what you said about it being important and to understand that you are will get over it and that you will find someone else later on, to open yourself up to the pain, to the potential of experiencing pain. And let me just say, like, I'm deeply in love with my wife. I can't stare at her in her eyes without openly crying because there is so much emotion of just history wrapped up in it that that's pain, but it's a good pain, you know?
Mm,
So, like, I love that Princess Bride line. Life is pain. Anyone who tells you differently is trying to sell you something.
right.
Like, yeah, life is pain. Whether it's good or bad, you're going to be experiencing pain, and you need to get used to it because that's what makes life magical. You're going to feel pain when you receive the child out of your wife's womb for the first time and hold them. You're going to feel pain when they don't want to hold your hand walking down the street. You're going to feel pain when they go off to live outside of your home that you tried your best to take care of them in and provide a safe environment, not knowing what they're going to have to go through. Like, that's all wildly painful, but it's such an enriching experience to have that it's good to go through that pain, I think.
Yeah. And it's so hard being a parent because like your natural instinct is to prevent pain for your children,
Mm-hmm.
protect them from all kinds of pain. In the beginning, when they're young, it's physical, but as they get older, it's emotional. So the instinct is you want to protect them and shield them from it. But if you shield them from that, then they can't experience, the love and the good side of it and joy. So they have
Yeah.
to go through it. There's nothing you can do, and it's such a helpless feeling.
Yeah.
But you're hurting them, you're stunting
Mm-hmm.
their growth if you try to do anything but allow them to experience it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all of that is to say that with that in mind, and in the framing of the parents could not have their own, and so the mother would literally do anything to keep this child and to see the best in him even in the darkest of times. It makes it believable even when it's not, you know? Like it makes you want to like champion her desire to try to find good in this kid. And the tiny ounces when he really goes bad of good that comes shining through, you're like, "Oh, what if? What if she
Yeah.
could?" You know, how much suffering does she have to go through in order to pull him back? And is that worth it?
So that leads me to a great question that I wanted to get your take on is at the end of the movie, I had this question of what could the parents have done differently? Is there anything they couldn't have done differently? Because I never like to criticize other parents because
Yeah, it's rough.
I don't think I know what I'm doing, and I don't think what I do is always right. And in fact, I'm probably below average. If just so just I don't know. I think I could be doing better, but could there? I don't mean to criticize them, but is there anything they could have done that could have prevented what happened at the end?
Gosh, yeah, I don't know.
Because she did emphasize that he's special.
Mm-hmm.
She said that to him. You're special. You're meant for greatness. Did that give him a self importance that maybe if she had said it's more important to be
Work
one of us
hard.
or get along with everyone, did
Right.
that do anything? Is there anything that you think they could have done?
That's interesting because there has been a study about like how parents shouldn't tell kids, "Oh, you're super smart." You should be like, "No, you're a hard worker," instead of "You're super smart." Because if you're super smart, you don't have to try hard. If you're a hard worker, then you have to continually try hard. So there's certainly framing techniques that are broad stroking better or worse, I think, as parents. Um, in this particular case, because he was an alien, because it is built into who he is to listen to his hive pod. I don't even know what to call it. His spaceship that was talking to him, telling him
Yeah.
to rule the world or own the world, or I can't remember the exact phrase.
Take the
Take
world.
the world. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Brutal.
Because he was constantly being fed that message, and once he heard it, and once he started acting on it, he felt normal, or at least he seemed to feel joy of some kind. That I'm not sure these humans could have changed him at all. Like no matter what they would have done. If it was a
Mm.
human kid and it was like a serial killer versus a superhero killer, then yes, I think the outpouring of um, showing interest, being a part of their lives in every aspect, giving them space, but also knowing, letting them know that they are loved and that it's okay to make mistakes and that it's a normal thing to make mistakes and to second guess and to question and to feel weird. Like all of that is 100% normal, but we don't know it is because people don't normally talk about it. So as long as you're communicating the realities of human existence, which is awkward and embarrassing and shameful for no reason, and that's all 100% normal, I feel like you got a good shot.
Mm.
But again, sometimes they're just shit asses, and I just don't know what to do, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've read so many stupid parenting books over the years and techniques that are, more popular in certain eras when they were written. And I think ultimately being present and available and showing genuine care and love is a big, like, it helps, you know.
And they did that. So maybe you're right. Maybe there wasn't anything they could have done better.
That's rough, yeah. I mean, but yeah, it is supposed to be a horror movie. It is supposed to be an alien, so
Yeah.
I don't want to criticize their parenting skills because I felt like they were just set up to fail in the script. So no
Yeah.
matter
Yeah.
what, they're going to
Yeah.
fail. But that's what I love about this is that it's not just a horror movie. It's not just a superhero bad guy movie. Like there are genuine questions about parenting that are infused here. So let's take out the fact that he's an alien. What if he's autistic? He's just on a spectrum that we don't like. He is incapable of connecting with us in the ways that we're used to, and we're incapable of connecting with him because we don't quite know how to yet.
Mm.
Um, the fact that there, any sort of birth defect or mental deficiency of parents who devote their lives to their kids should be just given funding for the rest of their lives because they're the greatest of us. Like, no one with this genuinely caring for and taking care of their children because their children just happened to be born with environmental or genetic deficiencies should have to do it on their own dime. Like, as a
Yeah.
species, I just feel like as a culture, if they're willing to put in the work, we should be giving them money to do so because they're still kids, they're still humans, they're still us, you know? And it's not their fault that they are born in this way, and it's not the parents' fault. It's just a reality of life. You know, we are different. We're all different. Some of us in very dramatic ways. And how do you communicate with kids with autism that you just they don't even like, in some cases, physical contact, which to me is like how I want to connect, you know? I want to
Yeah.
hold and hug, and especially as babies, because they understand as babies, you know, like intimacy and connection and closeness. That's a huge part of what it means, in my opinion, to be human, and to have connection with other humans, and how important that is for healthy humans.
Mm.
Like, I just, if we see this film in a different way, instead of superhero and just in, you know, maybe like a severe autism case, I feel like they did everything right.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think the kid would, of course, you know, murder people in that case, obviously, but like, I think they were the best case scenario. The mother was always there, 100%, no matter what, and she would go to the mats for him until the very end. And that's how you have to be, I think, as a parent, unless, of course, there's legality issues. The father, he was a little less so, but he still had the best interest of the kid. And I don't know. Let me know what you think about this. And this is probably going to be a divisive concept. And I think we've talked about masculinity and stuff before. But I do think that there is an incredible weight put on men, especially coming out of the 70s and 80s, where you're not allowed to cry, you're not allowed to show emotion, you have to be stoic, you have to sort of, you know, like, you're just not allowed to be a human being. You're supposed to be a
Yeah.
statue.
Yeah.
And it's so antithetical to what it means to be a human being that I think that damages kids in some way. And this father, in this case, he was very much like, you know, when the kids was like, give that to me. He was like, what did you say? No, we're leaving. Let's go. Get your stuff. We're leaving this restaurant
As
right now.
opposed to trying to talk to him about it,
Exactly.
work through it. I agreed with you in that moment. I was like, this is his birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
And even though there's not any friends there because he has difficulty, you know, getting along with kids at school, this is the best he's got for a birthday party. And like, I understand he was wrong and he shouldn't have spoken out like that, but to immediately take him away, as opposed to like trying to talk through what's the problem? Why are you so upset? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I thought that he was in the wrong, the dad, in that
Yeah.
moment. Yeah,
And I
yeah,
definitely get it because that's the era of my parents. Like, I know that reaction because I lived through it. But that's not what I would do, and that's certainly not what I would like to think that my kids would do if and when they have kids. I hope. I'd love grandkids. I think that would be amazing. But yeah, I mean, you can't just say no, get in the car. You know, like, you have to talk to them. Like, what's going on? Why are you
yeah,
acting like this? This is not normal for you. Like, what's going on? Why, what are you feeling right now? You have to explore that, because first of all, they might not realize that they said it in that tone. So, you may be overreacting to something that they didn't even intend. So you have to kind of get to bottom of what's going on. And then more importantly, like, you have to be able to set standards in a healthy way, not just like, I said so, thus it is. That's
yeah,
that's some bullshit from, like, that should never have been a thing because it makes no sense. I
yeah,
don't know. It is different ways of parenting, and, like you mentioned, it's hard to criticize, but I do feel like that's the wrong way of doing it.
yeah. But I do think you're touching on what was a kind of an ancillary theme with this movie is also about the danger of keeping secrets. So
Mm.
they kept secrets
Mm-hmm.
from society about where
Mm-hmm.
this child came from, but they also kept secrets like from each other. Like when he took the child to the woods, he didn't
Yep.
tell the wife, and they've also, there was some allusions to other disagreements where they weren't honest with each other. Oh, when she saw him in front of the trying to open
Oh,
the,
right. Yep.
yeah, to get to the spaceship, those wooden boards or whatever in the
Hmm.
barn. She doesn't tell the husband that she saw him. She said he was sleepwalking. So they're kind of alluding to the fact too that these, secrets made the situation, which was already untenable, way worse. And had they been honest with each other and been honest with him,
Yeah.
if they had told him at an earlier age, look, I know this is going to be difficult to take, but this is the story. Like, we found you. You know, this is the spaceship you came from. It sounds crazy to talk about, but
Yeah.
had they done that, I wonder if the outcome would have been different. You
Yeah.
know?
I yes, I think that's a great insight to this. Just as a personal experience, my mother remarried, and so I didn't have any connection with my real father from the age of like 5 on,
Oh,
and I just had no idea what he was doing or what was going on, and I always felt resentment that she never explained or tried to have him in my life or anything. Like, I felt like there was a hole, you know? And so it's supposed to be filled by the stepdad, but when you feel like you're always being treated as a step kid and not a son, or in this case, and you never really felt that connection because there was this open wound that was never addressed. I spent my entire youth rejecting my stepfather, who was a decent man and a literal war hero. I mean, he was a good human. It's just he had his own issues going on. And, coming into a family with a bunch of extra kids, you don't really know how to deal with that, especially if you're a military individual. And
mm,
so I don't blame him for not having that closeness, but I did feel a genuine void. And when I finally did reach out and finally find my father, um, it was something that I like strived. It was such a void in my family and in my connection to my family that when I finally did it, I felt resentment to them. Like, you kept me from this for so long. This is your fault. This isn't like his fault. This is your fault because you kept it from
mm.
me. And in reality is he didn't try to reach out either. So I can't just blame my mom. It was clearly his issue too. But that's not how I took it as a child. So I understand this kid. Like, he was never told that he was adopted. He assumed this was his parents. When he finally found out the truth, it was out of his own discovery. So of course he's going to feel resentment toward them. You lied my whole life. My entire identity is up in the air. I don't even know who I am, literally, not even
Yeah,
figuratively, because you lied to me. Like,
yeah,
how could you not take that personally and not overreact to that? It would be horrible. And, if it's okay. Like, the majority of human existence has not been platonic mother and father have a child who they lovingly take care for, and they have a loving relationship and they have a child. No, the majority of human existence has been, well, your family did something bad against my family, so to prevent war, we're going to give each other their kids and they're going to be raised separately. Like, this was a normal thing in the UK and in Scotland and Ireland. They would like board children with each other's families in order to prevent war, and then they would be raised in that family thinking themselves that family. And then
mm,
so our whole idea of this genealogy of, oh, we are this family that goes back to this time, is a complete bullshit lie, because we've actually been fostered throughout all of our ancestors' history into other families. There's no pure, in my last name, Campbell. It's all fostering of different families, kids throughout nations and time.
mm.
So there's no idea of like this is my son who I will take care of. So if you're a foster child or you're adopted, it doesn't mean you're less of a son or daughter to that family. It's a normal thing that has happened throughout all of human existence. At some point, it may be because the parents did not survive, or in some cases, they could not take care of the kids, or they sent the kids for their own survival. There's a billion different reasons why one kid would go with another family. And it doesn't make them less than. And I think it's really important, especially in a world where we have so many children without direct parenting and that are being parented by the state, and so many people striking down reproductive rights and forcing these situations to then occur because maybe the kids aren't ready to be parents, and so they can't legitimately look after the kids, or if they did, they're doing them more harm than they are good. And and we're just sort of in this state of the world where we're creating a bigger problem of kids feeling isolated and alone, which then leads to other societal issues. When it's okay to not be with biological parents, it doesn't mean you're less loved. It doesn't mean you're less important. You're still an individual human of substance, and like you're going to be loved by and large for the most part. I mean, I know there's extreme cases and stuff that's not the case, but I think the vast majority of adopted and foster kids shouldn't feel isolated and alone. They should feel fortunate that they have the opportunity of someone to care for them and love them, because there's so many people around this world who don't have that and have never had that opportunity in generations preceding them, you know?
You can make a case that they're more loved in general because the parents chose to and paid money and fought hard to get them, whereas so many parents it happened accidentally
Yeah.
or was unplanned. So yeah, absolutely, I agree with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie brings up so many amazing points for being just a horror movie.
It's a little bit of a deeper discussion than Superman 3. Which goes to, that's amazing how good the writing is and the ideas that it brought forth. Apparently the writer of it, the brother of James Gunn, Brian Gunn, is an adoptive parent.
Oh.
So I think that was kind of the the
Mm,
etymology of this, where it came from, is that he was worried about what my child will turn into, and that's when he started writing it. Yeah,
I like that.
it's interesting.
I like that a lot. And it definitely comes through. I mean, the fact that we're talking about it now for 52 minutes. I love that there was an alternate ending that wasn't filmed, but it was where Caitlin was shown in a lab having an arm grafted on her. Very DC EU. I can't remember the character's name actually. Do you?
Oh, Caitlin, was that
Bionic arm.
the little girl? Oh, Cyborg.
Yeah, Cyborg. That is it.
Cyborg.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes, yes.
yeah,
So I love that they made these little connections throughout the entire thing. And this is very much, especially when you watch the very end and the credit scenes where they're just going like character by character and twisting them, you know? That's sort
Oh, that was great. The half man, half sea beast who drowns people,
of
and the witch
the
that
witch.
uses a rope to strangle people. I was like, that actually, I know it would be a completely different movie and not as deep, but the Injustice League,
Mm-hmm.
I would see that. I would see that in a heartbeat. That would be
Yeah.
so cool.
Well, the drawings too were just so sort of twisted and awesome.
Yeah.
I think everything about this movie fired on so many wonderful cylinders. We got this sort of un this layer peeled back experience of the boy, and he's sort of like obsessing over the Brightburn logo that he's sort of writing, and then he sort of dons this outfit where his mask is very sort of wasp-esque, and he talks about the wasp at the very beginning, connecting deeply with it seemingly, or at
Yeah.
least being aware of it, and then that literally being his lived experience, and then him finding joy in the human anatomy and like torturing people and messing with them and seeing how far he can go, but desperately wanting connection, especially with the girl, and then seeing her spurn him. That sort of also pushes him in a bad way. Um, I don't know if you were bullied as a kid. I was certainly bullied as a kid, and
There
I
were at times. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely empathize with the sort of what he was going through as being the oddball and just being a little bit more strange than other people, because it is kind of tough at times. I think it's a normal experience that most people have, so I don't think it's abnormal. But everyone goes through some sort of like hazing phase of life at some point. At least I think they do. Um, this was meant to have a sequel and meant to sort of spiral out to other things, but James Gunn was brought back into the Marvel universe after the Me Too phase went through. And here's the thing, like, I'm assuming you're going to be on the same side of this argument. I think there's justification, like obvious, painfully clear, yes, justification for the Me Too movement. It needed to happen. People needed to be shut down for their horrible behavior, because unchecked, people can be fucking monsters. 100%. And majority of that is men. 100%, I think. But I do think it went kind of far. You know, like digging into people's history about like weird tweets that they tweeted about like decades
Yes.
before, and trying to cancel them for that. I mean,
Yes.
that's too far. Like people acting like shit asses, yeah, call them out. And let's stop that shit. Let's just stop the entitlement bullshit.
Right.
But don't look for reasons to cancel people. That's shitty. Like
Yeah.
you're as bad as the fucking person that you were railing against in the first place at that point, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I also think that that mentality of victim is is really kind of pervasive. Like a lot of movies, I don't know if you feel the same way, like the Joker and stuff like that. Like they tend to try to give justification of why this person is the way they are, and you're
Right.
supposed to like sympathize
Right.
with the villain, as opposed to like the old days where Batman's good, Joker's bad, and that's it. What I loved about this movie is that they did give justifications of bullying and not getting along with kids, but also they didn't try to make him out to be the victim.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was absolutely wrong, and they never backed away or shied away from that. What he did was completely wrong, and but it's just I was glad they didn't go that route and say, well, he deserves to be this way because of the bullying. In other words, they could have taken the bullying further.
Mm-hmm.
They could have had scenes where it was like he got beat up. Like they could have really taken it to a place where a lot of movies do these days and make it seem like, oh, this kid is absolutely right to do what he's doing. No, they didn't. The worst that the kids did is say some mean things.
Yeah.
No justification for what he did to the to the people in the movie, and just destroyed all of them. So
100%.
yeah, I love that.
I also like let's just talk about something. What was your favorite kill in this? Because horror films generally, they come down to, the shock and awe of the experience, but then also like, oh, that was super gruesome, that scene. So did you have a favorite?
I did. For me, it was the uncle in the truck.
That was
because
brutal.
So many times so many times I feel like the characters react differently. Yeah, jaw dropping. Yeah, I feel like the characters react differently. Like they say they do dumb things. They run into the basement. Like the old tropes and stuff like that. He didn't do anything wrong, and I loved his reaction too. He wasn't like cursing at the kid. There's also sometimes that like bravado in those moments. He was like, no, 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 no. Which is exactly what I would be saying in those moments. Everything he did was like, oh yeah, that's me. That would have been me too.
I love when he found him in the closet too. He wasn't like, oh, he was just like pulled the hood off him. He's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It was counter to every other horror film ever. You just rip the mask off the bad guy. And you're like, what is wrong with you? You're going home. Yeah. And he just marches him out of his house. First of all, I would not be like that. I would be like, what the fuck are you doing in my house? And like, I would be pissed. Yeah. It wouldn't just be like, more, you little scamp, get in the car. That was crazy. Yeah, that was a great death too. And gruesome, because you saw the jaw detached. You saw the horror of him looking like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, this is so messed up until the very end. For me, it was the dad. Boring his eyes through the dad's head and like lasers. That was so, deserved, because he just tried to kill the kid, which is brutal in its own right. The first time I saw that, I didn't think he was going to pull the trigger. Did you?
I did not. I was shocked. I thought he was going to lower it and at the last second.
Yeah, he's like, this is my son.
Yeah, or he was going to intentionally miss, like he's going to fight himself. No, he hit him right in the head. It was a good shot.
And the kid was like, what the fuck was that? Did you just, what? The dude was just like, oh, I fucked up. Oh
Yeah, yeah.
shit! I fucked up.
I would have tried to play it off like, oh, I sneezed. It was a deer.
I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Oh, thank goodness you're okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I mean,
yeah.
he knew, like, he made a comment earlier in the film. He's never had a paper cut. He's never been hurt. He's never bled. He's never been sick. Why did he think he would be able to kill him?
Yeah.
I just don't.
That part didn't make sense. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I get you needed to get, show how bad the kid has turned. And you have to get rid of the dad because then that sort of isolates the mother and it makes it much more dramatic and terrifying for viewers and stuff. I get the drama, but as the dad, I was just like, "You dumbass!
yeah.
You're not going to hurt him. You know you're not going to. So what are you doing? It makes no sense that you think you could kill him,
At least
like
the
at
mom
all.
had a believable strategy. You could see that. Yeah,
Yes, hundred
yeah.
percent. Like that was 100% believable. His, I just felt like you're being a dummy. Like
But
you're.
even that felt real because women are smarter than men.
I
So
don't know if in
makes
every
sense.
case, but in a lot of cases, for certainly, I've known very smart ones. Um, I've also known some very dumb women. So
That's true.
just to be fair, I think it's a case by case. I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I think this was a very successful horror film. It was very deep in the storytelling, and clearly we can talk about it for hours on end. What's your biggest takeaway from this film?
God, there's so much. This is definitely gonna stay with me. I think I'm never gonna look at Superman the same way
Mm-hmm.
again because it definitely gives you the idea of it literally could just be the opposite. We have no reason to think that an alien from another world would have similar moralities to us,
Mm-hmm.
the way the Superman lore seems to have just assumed that he would be a great American and a great person. Um, so it's just going to stick with me when I see that. Like, yeah, we don't know anything about what an alien would actually find as motivation, and it could easily be the insect mentality of just we have to take over. So it worked on so many levels. The parenting aspect, the nature versus nurture, it's just a home run all the way. And
Yeah.
if this is what James Gunn is going to bring to the Superman
The
franchise, I think it
depth.
bodes really, really well for this movie. It's
Yeah.
made me more excited for this movie than I was before.
Yeah, I,
Yeah,
I totally agree with that assessment, man. I'm really looking forward to it. And again, he produced this, he didn't write it, but I feel like he has the experience and passion for comics. Just seeing what he's done before, I feel like this is going to be a really good Superman film ultimately.
I listened to a interview where apparently the original script that his brother brought to him was a little bit more jokey,
Oh,
and James Gunn, yeah,
yeah.
he didn't ask him to. He didn't actually rewrite it himself, but he did ask his brother to make it more horror related. So I feel like he did have
Oh,
a strong influence on the script. So that I do think that we can take some cues as to how he will approach the Superman movie
I
coming out.
did not know that. I like that a lot though. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, he
Because
clearly loves it.
you could definitely make this jokey. I mean, there's a lot. When he shoots the kid could be like you said, what are you doing? Like there's
Yeah.
definitely a different take on this that would also have worked. But I love the horror angle that they stuck with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I as much as I don't think we ever need a sequel, and it would probably not be as good, I am curious about how this kid actor could act, moving forward, because I've never seen him in anything else. And I wonder if he has chops, or if it was just the writing that allowed him to sort of sink into it.
yeah,
Kind of like Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone. I mean, like, is it the kid? Is it the writing? Is it just the full zeitgeist of the moment that did it? But
yeah.
the only way to really find out is if you do a sequel. So I don't know. Give the kid some money. Let's do a sequel. Let's see what happens. I don't know. I don't think we need it. I don't necessarily even want it, but I am curious about the kid. Like, because
Yeah,
he's not a kid anymore. He's a grown ass man. What would the next stage be? Like there was that nightmare world of the DCEU where Superman went bad. Would it be like that? And we have to have superheroes like join together to stop him? Like, how would that go? I don't know. Now I kind of really want to see it. I'm talking myself into it. Yeah,
right.
it might be kind of
Just
cool.
seeing Superman rip through other hero, or
Yeah.
Brightburn killing other superheroes. That actually could be really interesting.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to talk about with this movie?
No, I think we hit on it. Just definitely a success all the way, and
Hmm.
I can't wait to see what he's gonna do with the next Superman. But we got a few more to go before we
We
get
do.
there.
We do have a couple more, and we have, in my opinion, one of the best coming up next with Man of Steel.
Ah, yes.
I love this film so much. I know not everyone did, and that's okay. You don't have to like everything, but we're going to talk about it nonetheless. So,
Awesome.
hopefully, Chris, you'll join me for that one.
Looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you liked Brightburn, and if you've never seen it, definitely do yourself a favor, go check it out. I think I got it on sale for like $5 on iTunes when I looked for it. I think it's streaming on a couple different services right now, so you might be able to see it for free. But it's definitely worth a watch. If you like Superman storyline and sort of the superhero tropes, and you like horror films, or you just want to maybe have a bit of a challenging conversation about what it means to be a parent with a difficult child, I think this film will fit into all of those narratives really well. And you can at least have a good conversation with someone afterwards. So do yourself a favor and check it out. As always, like it or not, evil spelled backwards is live. So get out there and be evil.
Maybe don't melt your father or drop your mother from a mile up evil, but a little is okay.
It's a good
I
point.
think.
Very, very solid, good point.